Episode 8 of Foundation Season 3 didn't just move the story forward, it exploded with power shifts, betrayals, and moments that make you question who is really pulling the strings. Every scene felt like it was setting the board for something massive, and by the time the credits rolled, we were left wondering if the plan itself is still intact, or if it's already gone off the rails. The episode opens with a tense and almost suffocating atmosphere. The camera lingers on the crumbling foundations of trust within the Empire, and from the very first moment, we feel that the delicate balance holding everything together is on the verge of collapse. Day stands at the center of this storm, still, trying to project strength, but the cracks in his authority are now impossible to ignore. His words carry less weight, and for the first time, the aura of absolute power that surrounded him feels fragile. What's striking in this opening is the silence between characters. It says more than the dialogue itself. Every look, every pause, every hesitation is loaded with meaning, as though everyone knows that history is shifting under their feet. From there, the episode cuts to the Foundation, where Hari Seldon's presence continues to dominate every conversation. The followers of the plan are more divided than ever. Some see him as a prophet, others as a manipulator who is bending events to his own will. The arguments around the plan echo larger questions about fate and free will. Do people truly have a choice in this universe, or are they just playing out the moves Hari has already calculated? Episode 8 leans heavily into that tension. It doesn't give us answers, but it did show us the cost of following or resisting. The plan. Meanwhile, Gaal and Salvor's journey takes a sharp turn here. After episodes of wandering between visions, doubts, and the weight of their destinies, Episode 8 throws them into a situation that feels more personal and dangerous than anything before. They're not just fighting for the survival of the Foundation, they're fighting for their own sense of identity. Gaal, in particular, carries the weight of foreknowledge. She can glimpse possible futures, but in this episode, the visions feel more like a curse than a gift. Every choice seems to close one door and open another darker one. Salvor, on the other hand, becomes the grounding presence, reminding Gaal that not everything is written, not everything is fixed. Their relationship becomes a mirror of the show's bigger theme: is the future inevitable, or can it be rewritten? Back in Trantor, the palace becomes a battlefield of minds rather than armies. The interplay between day, dawn, and dusk hits a new intensity. Episode 8 finally lets the simmering resentment between the three genetic brothers boil to the surface. Day's arrogance is matched by dawn's quiet defiance and dusk's weary disapproval. It's a family drama on the scale of empires, and the writing makes every exchange feel like a chess match where the smallest move could shatter centuries of control. There's an almost Shakespearean weight to these scenes, brothers circling each other, each convinced they're the one who truly understands what the dynasty needs. What gives these palace moments such power is how much they contrast with the Foundation storyline. While Hari and his followers are debating philosophy and destiny, the Cleons are choking on their own ambition and pride. Both storylines are about control, but in very different ways. One asks whether we can control the future at all. The other shows us what happens when people try to control each other without limits. As the first half of the episode closes, we're left with several key shifts: Day's grasp on authority visibly weakening, Hari's plan causing deeper divisions, and Gaal and Salvor standing on the edge of a decision that could alter everything. Episode 8 builds tension like a storm gathering on the horizon, and by this point, you can feel the thunder coming. The second half of Episode 8 raises the stakes in ways that feel both inevitable and shocking. The story pivots from simmering tension to explosive turning points, and each thread of the narrative begins to converge into something far larger than the characters themselves. The Foundation storyline sharpens first. Hari Seldon, whether you see him as a genius or a manipulator, takes center stage once again. His words echo with the authority of someone who claims to see centuries ahead, but Episode 8 cleverly undermines him. For the first time in a long while, we see genuine doubt in his voice. Not in the numbers, not in the mathematics of psychohistory, but in his ability to control the people living within his grand equation. The Foundation's followers are no longer content to be pawns in a game they don't understand. They argue. They resist, and some even openly question whether following Hari's plan is worth the sacrifices. This conflict is one of the most striking parts of the episode. It's not about who has the strongest weapon, but about who believes the most. In the story they've been told, meanwhile, Gaal and Salvor's journey pushes them into the heart of danger. Their bond is tested as visions of possible futures clash with the harsh reality around them. Episode 8 gives Gaal some of her most haunting moments yet. Her visions are no longer abstract glimpses of what might come. They're vivid, painful, and personal. She sees not just the fall of empires, but the loss of people she loves. The way she reacts is telling. Instead of hardening her resolve, it makes her question whether knowledge of the future is a gift or a curse. Salvor, grounded and pragmatic as ever, pushes back. She refuses to let Gaal drown in possibilities. Her focus is survival, here and now, and that contrast becomes one of the emotional engines of this half of the episode. The Empire storyline, however, is where episode 8 truly explodes. The Cleon dynasty has always been about appearances, perfection, cloned and repeated for generations, but in this episode, the illusion finally tears apart. Day's desperation becomes more visible with every scene. He lashed out not just at dawn and dusk, but at the very concept of being questioned. For him, obedience has always been a given, and watching that certainty crumble is fascinating. Dawn, usually the quieter of the three, steps out of the shadows in this episode. He's no longer content to play the passive role. He challenges Day not with rage, but with calm defiance, and that contrast shakes Day even more. Dusk, weary and bitter, adds fuel to the fire, pointing out what everyone already sees. The dynasty is no longer untouchable. One of the most memorable sequences is a heated confrontation inside the palace chambers. The camera captures the three brothers circling one another like predators. Their words are daggers, each line meant to cut deeper than the last. Day insists that the Empire will stand forever. Dawn warns that the cracks are already spreading, and Dusk spits out the bitter truth that they are living on borrowed time. It's a scene that strips away the grandeur of the palace and leaves us staring at three men who look the same but are nothing alike. In that moment, the genetic dynasty feels less like a symbol of power and more like a tragic family locked in a cycle of arrogance and decline. Parallel to this, the episode builds up the external threats pressing in on both the Foundation and the Empire. Whispers of rebellion grow louder, alliances form in the shadows, and episode 8 makes it clear that no one is safe. The idea of control, a word repeated throughout the season, feels more fragile than ever. Hari's plan, the Cleon dynasty. Gaal's visions, each of these once seemed uncheckable, but here they wobble under the weight of uncertainty. The second half of the episode ends with a chilling note. A decision is made, one that promises to ripple through the remaining episodes. With devastating consequences, the final moments leave us staring into the unknown, with a sense that the story has crossed a point of no return. It's not just about predicting the future anymore, it's about surviving it. If episode 8 proved anything, it's that Foundation thrives not just on the grand sweep of history, but on the fragile, conflicted humans caught in its gears. The real weight of this episode didn't come from space battles or political maneuvers. It came from the characters, who revealed more about themselves in quiet glances and fractured choices than in any grand speech. This chapter of the story cracked their masks, showing us the insecurities and flaws that make them both powerful and powerless. Hari Seldon remains the show's enigmatic anchor, but in episode 8, he felt less like an untouchable architect and more like a man haunted by the scope of his own creation. For seasons, Hari has been the prophet, the voice of inevitability, the one who speaks with mathematical certainty. But here, there are flickers of vulnerability. We see that even he can be shaken when his followers resist or when his predictions don't align neatly with human chaos. His genius has always relied on people behaving in patterns, but what if emotion, love, or desperation pushes them beyond prediction? Episode 8 quietly underlines this fear. Hari is still revered, but the edges of his authority are fraying. The more he insists on the inevitability of the plan, the more others begin to wonder if the man behind it is starting to doubt himself. Gaal Dornick's arc in this episode takes her further into the role of both seer and sufferer. Her visions are her gift, but episode 8 makes it clear that they are also her torment. She isn't a detached prophet like Hari, she's a woman. Seeing futures filled with blood and heartbreak, futures she feels powerless to change. The brilliance of her character here lies in the balance between fear and resolve. She questions her place in the grand design but refuses to let despair consume her. In Gaal, we see the human cost of prophecy. It's one thing to predict the fall of empires, it's another to watch it happen in fragments, knowing the people you care for may be swept away. Salvor Hardin, ever the pragmatist, is Gaal's counterweight, while Gaal drifts through visions and existential questions. Salvor pulls her back to earth. Episode 8 highlights this contrast more than ever. Salvor doesn't want to be ruled by probabilities or futures written in vision. She wants to fight for the here and now. Her determination becomes even sharper when Gaal's debt grows heavier. If Hari represents the cold logic of psychohistory, and Gaal embodies the torment of foresight, then Salvor stands for the raw defiance of choice. Watching her push against destiny, even as everyone else whispers about inevitability, gives her a quiet but powerful heroism. The Empire storyline, though, gives us some of the richest character moments of the entire season so far. Brother Day, who has always embodied authority and arrogance, feels more unsteady than ever. Episode 8 peels back the layers of his bravado to reveal insecurity. His fury, his lashing out, his insistence that nothing can topple the dynasty, these are not signs of strength, but of fear. Day is beginning to realize that the aura of godhood that once cloaked him is fading, and what remains is a man desperate to cling to the illusion of control. It's a haunting portrait of power in decline. Brother Dawn, on the other hand, comes into sharper focus. Where Day blusters, Dawn calculates. His defiance is quieter, more measured, and therefore more dangerous. In episode 8, we see the seeds of independence that could one day dismantle the dynasty from within. His calmness in the face of Day's rage isn't weakness, it's strategy. Dawn is the character who watches, who waits, and in this episode, he finally begins to step out of Day's shadow. Brother Dusk brings the weight of history to the table. He knows what has been lost and what is already slipping away. His bitterness, his resigned wisdom, create some of the most cutting dialogue of the episode. Dusk is the ghost of the dynasty's past, watching helplessly as the same mistakes are repeated in a new generation. His presence is a reminder that empires don't collapse in a single moment, they crumble slowly, as arrogance blinds those in power to the cracks forming beneath their feet. What makes episode 8 so unique is how these characters reflect one another across storylines. Hari's struggle for belief mirrors Day's crumbling authority. Gaal's torment over visions parallels Dusk's bitterness about inevitability. Salvor's insistence on choice stands against the Empire's obsession with control. Each character becomes a piece of a puzzle the audience can feel, but not yet see clearly. They are all fighting, in their own way, to shape or escape destiny. And the beauty of this episode is that none of them seem entirely certain if they're winning or already doomed by the time the credits roll. It's clear that episode 8 is less about answers and more about revelations of character, weakness, strength, and the human fragility that lies beneath the grandeur of history. One of the things that makes Foundation stand apart from other sci-fi shows is how much meaning hides between the lines. Episode 8 isn't just about the surface drama of power struggles and visions of the future. It's a carefully layered piece of storytelling where symbols, callbacks, and subtle choices in dialogue or imagery point to deeper truths about the world of the show. To fully appreciate this episode, you need to look beyond what the characters are saying and doing, and pay attention to what the story is whispering in the background. The most striking symbol in Episode 8 is the way silence is used. From the tense pauses in the palace chambers to the quiet hesitation among Hari's followers, silence becomes its own language. In the Empire storyline, those silences feel oppressive, like the heavy air before a storm. Every moment Day pauses before responding, every instance where Dawn chooses not to speak, adds to the sense that words alone can no longer hold their dynasty together. Meanwhile, in the Foundation thread, silence represents something different out. When followers hesitate before answering Hari, it is a silent rebellion, a small crack in the wall of absolute belief. The dual use of silence across storylines turns it into a hidden motif. Silence as both oppression and resistance. Another detail worth noticing is how mirrors and reflections appear throughout the episode. The Cleons are literally mirrors of one another, clones repeated generation after generation. But Episode 8 plays with the visual idea of reflection more deliberately. When Day confronts Dawn and Dusk, the palace setting often frames them in symmetrical compositions, emphasizing that they are supposed to be the same, but are anything but. This fractured reflection mirrors the larger theme of identity. What does it mean to be unique when you were designed to be identical? For Gaal and Salvor, the motif of reflection comes through in dialogue rather than visuals. Salvor's insistence on choice reflects back against Gaal's surrender to visions, and their relationship becomes a mirror where each sees what the other lacks. Episode 8 also slips in callbacks to earlier chapters, some obvious, others more subtle. The repeated line about control ties directly to Season 1, when the Empire first began to question whether cloning could truly preserve stability. That word becomes almost cursed in this episode. Every time someone says it, the world seems to spin further out of anyone's control. There's also a thematic callback to Gaal's early struggle in Season 1, when she first questioned whether following Hari meant surrendering her own freedom. In Episode 8, those doubts resurface with more weight, suggesting that Gaal's story has come full circle, though now with greater stakes. Symbolism also lingers in the imagery of collapse. Small details, crumbling statues in the background of Trender, damaged structures in Foundation territory quietly remind us that decline is not a sudden explosion, but a slow erosion. These visuals echo Asimov's original concept, that empires fall not in one moment of chaos, but through years of ignored decay. Episode 8 leans heavily into this visual storytelling, letting the environment itself foreshadow the coming collapse. Even when characters insist on strength, the walls around them seem to say otherwise. One more hidden layer in Episode 8 comes from its exploration of prophecy. Gaal's visions, Hari's plan, even the genetic dynasty itself, they are all different forms of prophecy. Each represents an attempt to impose certainty on an uncertain world. Hari believes in numbers, Gaal sees futures, the Cleons believe in the eternal repetition of themselves. And yet, Episode 8 shows us cracks in every one of these prophecies. Hari's predictions falter when human chaos interrupts. Gaal's visions overwhelm her rather than guide her. The dynasty, built on the illusion of endless repetition, begins to unravel. The symbolism here is clear. Prophecy itself is fragile, no matter what form it takes. The future cannot be held, no matter how tightly someone tries to grasp it. There are even subtler touches that reward close viewing. The lighting shifts in palace scenes often bathe Day in harsh, blinding white, while Dawn stands in cooler, softer tones. Dusk, meanwhile, is frequently framed in shadows, suggesting the roles each has come to embody. Day burning himself out, Dawn carrying calm potential, and Dusk fading into history. In the Foundation sequences, the lighting carries a different symbolism. Gaal is often half-lit, suggesting her divided nature between vision and reality, while Salvor is lit more fully, grounded, as if to remind us of her focus on the present moment. These artistic decisions shape how we subconsciously read the characters, making the episode feel layered even without heavy dialogue. In the end, Episode 8's hidden details are not just flourishes, they are messages. Silence, mirrors, prophecy, collapse, light and shadow, all these elements deepen the story beyond the literal events on screen. They remind us that Foundation isn't just telling us a plot. It's inviting us to consider how history, identity, and belief shape our understanding of the future. And when you piece together these details, Episode 8 transforms from a tense chapter in the narrative into a meditation on power, destiny, and the cracks that always appear when humans try to master time itself.